Hello and welcome to this UniTaster On Demand event today. My name is John Cheek. I'm here from UniTasterDays, and it's my job to introduce the event and introduce our speaker today. The subject we're going to be looking at today is prosthetics and orthotics, and I'm delighted to be joined by James May from the University of Salford. James is a lecturer and he's going to talk about why you might want to consider the course, what to expect on it, application tips and careers. And with that, I pass to James May from the University of Salford. Over to you, James.
Thank you very much, John, and welcome everybody. As discussed, I'm James May. I'm one of the lecturers at the University of Salford, and I'm here to chat to you today about prosthetics and orthotics. We are one of the lesser known allied health professions, but hopefully I can give you a little bit of a taster today of what our work and our discipline and our industry is about, and hopefully set a few ideas turning in your head about what possibilities there might be available for you. So, what is prosthetics and orthotics? Why might you wish to study it? What sorts of career opportunities are available? And any sort of tips or a few little tips about what for applying if you would be so keen as to do so. So first of all, what is prosthetics and orthotics? And in essence, we deal with, as a healthcare profession, the assessment, the review, and the management of the whole body. There's prosthetists who provide artificial limbs to people who've had all or a natural part of their limb missing, or there's also orthotists who work with orthoses, and in essence they provide supportive braces or splints to help people with various conditions of the limb, head and spine. Across both of these disciplines and both of these lines of work, we work with all demographics, people of all ages, all activity levels, all abilities, and with that our work is challenging, it's mixed, and it's quite rewarding and challenging as well. So a prosthetist, just to go into a little bit more detail, in essence, we work with service users clinically, and we provide prosthetic devices or prostheses to service users who've had an amputation, and that amputation may be due to disease, such as perhaps peripheral vascular disease or diabetes, or it may also be conditions such as cancer, or alternatively, amputation may also be, amputation may also occur in instances of trauma, such as blast injuries in conflict zones, or through things like road traffic accidents as well. In addition, there are also patients who require prosthetic devices who were born with absence of a limb or a congenital deficit that means that there is a lack of function based on the lost limb. In all of those instances, if you can imagine being born without an extremity, it can be potentially limiting. It can be quite a debilitating experience. Also, electing to have an amputation can also be a traumatic life event as well. And studies have shown that being a prosthetic service user or having had an amputation, the studies have shown that it is likened to bereavement. So you can imagine how challenging it must be to try and rehabilitate yourself following an amputation. But the most important thing to say and consider about all of that is that often patients who've had an amputation, that process and that amputation is actually life-saving. So with that, the challenge for us in prosthetics and orthotics is trying to, in essence, make the most of that terrible situation and try and give people their quality of life, their independence, and their mobility back as best as we can. So what do we do, or how do we do that? Well, in essence, we are autonomous practitioners in prosthetics, and we work on the assessment of our service users, figuring out what their activity levels are, what their goals are of their rehabilitation, what they aim to achieve, what activities they like to do, and then using our skills and our knowledge, taking the appropriate data or capturing the appropriate data we need through casting, scanning and measuring techniques, and coming up with designing, fitting, supplying, reviewing, adjusting a prosthetic device, again, to try and help a user realize their potential and achieve their rehabilitation goals. So we are working clinically, face-to-face with patients on the appraising, meeting and developing their needs through our delivery and the design and provision of prosthetics devices. So that's a bit about prosthetics. And then, of course, we also deal with orthotics. And orthotics, you're working slightly differently if you're working in orthotics, in that rather than replacing a body segment that's gone, you're actually working with an existing segment to try and support it. The word ortho is an old Greek word, and it means, in essence, to straighten or fix. And in essence, that's what we look at in orthotics. We look at devices that will support, protect, correct a body segment or a part of the body. And then orthosis is any externally applied device to any part of the body. A lot of people commonly think of orthotics as perhaps just shoe inserts or insoles, but in reality, we actually work from top to toe. So you can see an example of a cervical collar in the right-hand side of the picture here to support the neck. And then, of course, we also then work with knees, feet and ankles, the spine, the torso, the upper limbs as well. And the important thing to say on this slide as well, in both prosthetics and orthotics, we are allied health professionals and we're registered by the Health and Care Professions Council. Again, in orthotics, you work with assessments and ascertaining the service requirements and needs of a service user, rather, and then you're looking at casting, scanning, measuring and fitting procedures. And again, you're doing so in order to try and help the patient realise their full potential. Again, some pictures show a foot and ankle device made out of carbon fibre. We can see the red insoles or inserts in the middle of the screen there. They're actually 3D printed devices. And of course, we use scanning and 3D data capture technology, as well as traditional moulding and casting methods as well. New technologies such as 3D printing, scanning, they allow us to be more accurate. They now allow us to be less wasteful in our use of materials, and they also help us to be a little bit more repeatable and a little bit more accurate and more technologically advanced in terms of the work and the services that we're providing. And all of this new technology is just feeding its way and filtering its way into our profession. So again, it's hopefully quite an exciting thing to consider. And what does these two disciplines, what does the learning, what does the program, what does the university life of a prosthetics and orthotics student entail? Well, in essence, we look at a combination of theoretical, clinical and practical learning experiences across all P&O courses, and particularly with ourselves at the University of Salford as well. One of the things we also do is we integrate clinical placements into our work and our study at university as well. Clinical placements encourage what's described as authentic learning experiences, and they give our students an opportunity to put into practice what they've learned at university, and also to experience learning activities and undertake learning activities that will be akin to what they will go on to study, or rather what they will go on to work and do when they are out in the field upon qualification. The other thing about studying prosthetics and orthotics at university is that it's a practical and hands-on course, and we undertake clinical design and manufacturing work, and we also work with service users throughout our study as well, not just on clinical placements, and we truly get hands-on in the work that we do. Other things to say, and part of the curriculum, we also have an advanced understanding and we undertake learning in a few key areas, such as the use of materials, manufacturing and design processes in the provision of prosthetics and orthotics devices. We have a great understanding and we learn a lot about anatomy and physiology. And then with that, we also undertake study in what's called biomechanics. And in essence, that's the study of mechanical biological structures, and in essence human motion, how we move, how we work, and what we can do when we're both working with segments or replacing segments that have gone, to again try and help our service users reach their full potential. We of course then look at other issues such as, well, more specific issues around prosthetics and orthotic science. So how do we do what we do clinically, and why do we do it? And what does the research base and what does the scientific evidence base say about what we do and why we do it? And how does it help our service users? If the goal is for pain reduction or to increase mobility, how do we actually go about that with externally supplied devices? We also then, of course, if we need to enhance or we're training the clinicians of the future, we also need to ensure that our students and our graduates are equipped to deal with the modern healthcare environment. So that means things like continued professional development, areas around clinical governance, good communication skills, things like awareness of issues such as safeguarding and data protection. And conflict resolution. These are just some examples of how we need to consider within our learning in prosthetics and orthotics wider issues within the healthcare environment. And these are all things that you learn when you're studying prosthetics and orthotics as well. And I just want to move on now as to that's what you might be studying, or why you might be what you might be studying, and how you might be studying, but also why. Well, that's a fantastic question. And in essence, I wouldn't be a lecturer within the field if I didn't believe greatly in its value to our wider society. But it offers quite a unique degree and qualification. It offers quite a unique skill set. And in essence, you achieve a qualification in two disciplines. So that's prosthetics and orthotics. And in the United Kingdom, often practitioners, upon qualifying, either go into either or. And then internationally and abroad, there are also, more readily also, as well, options to practice both disciplines. But with all that, it's important to say that there are estimated 1.2 million people in the UK requiring an orthosis or an externally applied device, and there are over 65,000 people requiring at least one artificial limb. And the thing to say, sadly, about both of those numbers, as the population swells and as we all learn to live longer, both of those numbers are rising. And then the other thing to say with that, there is an increased demand for services, which we'll touch on in just a few moments. But the thing to say about this is that holders of our qualification or a recognised accredited programme qualification are eligible to apply for registration to the Healthcare and Professions Council. And it allows them to practice within the United Kingdom as an autonomous clinician or an autonomous practitioner. So we are an allied health profession and we are regulated by the Health and Care Professions Council. And with that then as therapists, we sit alongside perhaps more familiar health and care professions such as podiatrists, radiographers, occupational therapists rather, and physiotherapists. But with that, we have quite the unique skill set and we're across two disciplines. And the other thing to say as to why prosthetics and orthotics might potentially be attractive for you. Well, yes, it's a unique and valuable skill set, but the other thing to think about, and just to try and raise awareness of some of the potential within our field, it's been estimated by the World Health Organization that by 2030, more than 2 billion people will need at least one assistive product, with many older people needing 2 or more. And a sad stat is that even today, only 1 in 10 people in need have that access. So in essence, only 10% of 2 billion people by 2030 will have access to assistive equipment. So the challenge for us, and bear in mind assessment equipment products, it may include things like wheelchairs, crutches, glasses as well, but prosthetics and orthotics are some of the areas where this deficit needs to be addressed. So it's incumbent upon us to train people, for people to wish to make a difference to people's lives, to be trained and take their skill set. And that's not just to the UK, that's further afield and across the entire globe. There's a need for our skill set and our sort of unique skills in problem solving. And the other thing to say, that a little bit closer to home, there are also significant workforce shortages in the UK as well. So a study by the Health Education of England and the BHTA in 2017 estimate that there needs to be a 30 to 50% increase in order to meet current work demands in orthotics in particular. The other thing that makes this degree also in this qualification in this discipline in demand, and the other thing to consider if you're thinking about truly making a difference, is that it's also been estimated that good orthotic care and the economic and social consequences of denying patients orthotic care costs an estimated £390 million per annum. And that is from 2004 data. But again, as we progress through time, that number is on the rise. And some studies and estimates have shown that for every £1 spent on improving orthotic service provision, the NHS could save £4 in resources that are allocated elsewhere. So again, if you're thinking about making a difference, if you want to be committed to helping other people, making a valuable contribution in society to the UK and further afield, again, prosthetics and orthotics is hopefully something for you to consider. Why else might it be a good thing to consider? Well, in 2019, the government of the UK announced additional funding for students on certain healthcare programmes. And Prosthetics and Orthotics is one of these programmes, based on the workforce shortages, based on the need for our skill sets and our abilities. The government have identified and offer additional funding to students wishing to explore prosthetics and orthotics as a profession. On the side of the screen, you can see a list of disciplines that offer additional funding for students on courses to train within these disciplines. But for prosthetics and orthotics in particular, you are entitled to, or may well be eligible for, up to £6,000 per year, which is a grant. It's not paid repayable, to help you with your studies in orthotics and prosthetics. The other thing to say is that with clinical placements as well, it may be that there's an incumbency to travel or perhaps live away for a brief period of time throughout your studies, and financial support is also available to cover placement costs and support those learning activities as well. So not just is it a worthwhile thing to be doing, but there's also the incentive in order to do it as well. So with that, hopefully it's attractive, but the biggest thing to say is the element of job satisfaction that you can potentially have if you wish to study and work in prosthetics and orthotics. So we use technology, we use new materials, we use new data capturing technologies, we use outcome measures, and we do all of that to improve mobility and quality of life. And the biggest selling point, and again, the reason why I work now at the university and trying to develop the clinicians of the future, is that you get paid for doing something truly worthwhile. And I've heard a quote, or there's quite a well-known saying that if you find a job you'll love, you'll never work a day in your life. And this is truly one of those things to consider on that basis, is that we get paid to wake up every day and make a hugely positive impact on people's lives. With that, with the workforce shortages, with the challenges globally and locally and nationally with prosthetics and orthotic service provision, there's plenty of career opportunities. After a couple of years, we can choose to specialise in specialist areas, or we can specialise in certain areas of healthcare within P&O, such as pediatric care, for example, or working with diabetic or rheumatology patients in particular. There's also clinical education or clinical educational roles and opportunities available. Colleagues and peers and clinicians also go on to lead and review and lead services, clinical, not just in prosthetic and orthotic, but within wider healthcare trusts as well. Some clinicians go on to become extended and advanced practitioners. And then, of course, there's also opportunities for things like further study, both in terms of master's courses or PhDs. And the University of Salford, amongst a couple of other institutions in the UK, have established what's known as the CDT, the Centre for Doctoral Training. And those are 10 to 16 fully funded PhD programs where you can then look at further study. And these, as well as these further training course programs, they look at, again, thinking about being clinicians and helping enhance the workforce, also trying to make our resources and our technology more accessible in the developing world as well, to try and redress that staggering World Health Organization statistic about the limitations of service provision in P&O and across other assisted product services as well. With that, further study can lead to and does feed into things like product procurement, product development, and again, thinking about serving the community, serving our patients, serving our service users, and also trying to provide value for money and worthwhile products that are going to, in a cost-effective and accessible manner and a sustainable manner, help our patients and help our service users, again, with their rehabilitation goals. Finally, things to say about the career opportunities is that the earning potential based on our level of experience, and as we progress through the NHS pay bands, we do get we get well remunerated for the work that we do as well. And if you're interested, having listened to all of that, what are we looking for in prosthetics and orthotics? applicants, what are we looking for in potential students, what are we looking for in potential clinicians and potential practitioners? Well, in essence, we're looking for intelligent people, practical people with a strong motivation to help those in need. We look at strong academic achievements at both GCSE and A-level or level 3 equivalents. And we look also for evidence of English, maths, science, design and technology or engineering qualifications, and those with those sorts of backgrounds also. Additional things that may make you attractive to prosthetic and orthotic course providers are any relevant professional or work experience that's been undertaken. And also we're looking for those with strong written and verbal communication skills and those who have an eye for and enjoy the challenge of problem solving as well. If there's any questions at all, please feel free to email me at j.w.may1@salford.ac.uk. Alternatively, thank you for watching, and I hope that was of use and has hopefully inspired a couple of you to have a look at this further as a potential opportunity for further study. Thanks for your time, and I hope to hear from some of you soon. Thank you.